Hello po mga ka-nursing, welcome po sa ating channel. I am Nurse J. And please don't forget to subscribe po and hit the notification bell para po updated kayo sa mga next videos natin. Happy learning po! Enjoy! Hello mga ka-nursing, welcome po sa ating channel. And for today's video, the focus of our discussion is about the body's fluids and electrolytes. So sir, why body fluids and electrolytes po ang aralin natin ngayon? Simply because this is one of the hardest topic po na meron sa nursing course. Okay? Kasi hindi lang isang organ system ang involved, kundi halos lahat ng organ system sa katawan natin ay may kinalaman sa regulation of body's fluids and electrolytes. Kaya po siya mahirap na intindihin. Okay? So to start with the discussion, we will review first the basic. We will have to review first the anatomy and physiology related now to your body's fluids and electrolytes. But before we continue, pampagana lang po, I will going to ask a question. So, this is the question. Is an obese person has more body fluids than a lean person? Okay. So, your answer is gonna be, it's either be a yes or no. Okay. So, while you are thinking about your answer po, kindly subscribe naman sa ating channel and also hit the notification bell para naman po keep updated kayo sa mga next videos natin. Okay? So with this question, is an obese person has more body fluids than a lean person? The answer is, or the correct answer is no. Okay? No. Okay? Mas maraming tubig ang isang lean person kesa ang isang obese person. Ang marami sa obese person is actually fat. Okay? Sir, bakit? Bakit po mas maraming tubig ang isang tao na payat kesa sa isang tao na mataba or obese? Okay? So the answer for that question is gonna be on the next slide. Okay? So these are the facts about the body's fluids and electrolytes. Number 1, nasabi ko na kanina, FNE is regulated by almost all organ systems sa katawan natin. Okay? But the main organ system na involved sa pag-regulate ng fluids and electrolytes is are your kidneys, followed by your lungs and your gastrointestinal tract. So sila po yung mga common. But of course, sabi ko nga, almost all organ system are involved in regulating FNE. Okay. Aside from that, another fact is that our body is composed of 60% water. In other books, sabi 60 to 70% okay, of human body comprises of water. Okay, which is considered as the primary fluids po sa katawan natin. Okay. Which makes sense kasi nga sa nutrition, okay, the most important nutrients na dapat tinitake natin is actually water. Sabi nga po sa survival, okay, you can live without food for weeks. Okay? However, you cannot live without water for 3 days. Hindi ka mabubuhay na walang tubig sa loob ng 3 araw. Okay? That's how important water is sa katawan natin. Simply because majority ng ating structure is made up of water. Okay, made up of water. Another fact about your body's fluids and electrolytes is that age, sex, and fat, okay, or the fat content ng katawan natin affects the total body water. Okay? Sir, bakit po ganon? Okay, start natin kay fat. Okay, bakit? Kasi si fat tissue is essentially free of water. Hindi ibig sabihin na marami kang taba sa katawan ay marami ka ng tubig. Okay? Kasi nga, according to our book, fat are essentially or is essentially free of water. Okay? Is essentially free of water. Now, another fact okay, na may kinalaman din sa taba okay, at sa edad ng isang tao is that infant's body structure is made up of 70 to 80% of water. Why? Because infant has lesser fats compared to us adults. And ano po yung basis sir na sabihin natin po konti ang fats na isang infant? Number 1, of course, kalalabas lang nila ng matres ng nanay in terms of fat intake. Konti ang nakukuha nila or konti pa lang ang nailalagay sa katawan nila. That is why yung thermoregulation or one of the problem ng infant, okay, and one of the most common cause of their death is actually hypothermia or yung pag-decrease ng body temperature or ng core temperature simply because their thermoregulation is not yet effective. and wala pa nga silang gaanong taba. Okay? That's why they are more prone in developing hypothermia compared to us average adult. And their body is composed of 70 to 80% water compared to adult, which is only 60 to 70% in other books. Okay? Another facts about your body's fluids and electrolytes is that women has less water compared to men due to fats again. Okay? Simply because marami pong function sa katawan or regulation sa katawan ng isang babae na kailangan ng fats para mag-work out. For example, menstruation. Hindi po rereglahin ang isang babae without fats. Okay? And that is one of the reason why ang isang anorexia nervosa patient o yung mga may eating disorder na ang tingin nila sa sarili nila pag tumitingin sa salamin is sobrang payat, hindi sila kumakain. Pag hindi sila kumain, of course, yung intake nila ng fat nababawasan din. Kaya ang pasyenteng ito, yung mga anorexic patient, one of their manifestation is amenorrhea o yung tinatawag na absence of menstruation. Ano po ang dahilan nun? Kasi nga, decrease ang intake nila ng food and kasama dun sa food na decrease is your fats. Okay? So those are facts regarding the body fluids and electrolytes. Of course, marami pa na mga bagay na kailangan natin alamin, but these are just some major facts that we need to know that can affect yung ating that can affect the factors, okay, factors that will later affect yung mga imbalances sa katawan natin. Okay, now since we are talking about the fluids of our body, which is the water, let's talk about the purposes. Okay, the purposes of water in the body. Okay, let me just remove my picture here. Okay, so what are the purposes of water in the body? So the purposes of water in the body is number one, it serves as a medium, okay, medium for metabolic reaction within the cell. Alam naman natin, in every aspect ng mixture ng mga substances, it requires liquid component para magkaroon ng reactions. And the same thing is true inside our body. Okay, before a glucose can be converted to become a calorie, okay, then later on ATP para maging energy ng katawan natin, kailangan mag-undergo siya ng metabolic reactions. And it has to be mixed, okay, together with other component and fluids of the body. Aside from that, it also helps in the transport of nutrients, waste products, and other substances. Of course, huwag natin kakalimutan si oxygen. Okay, transport. Okay, transport. Sir, ang alam ko po, dugo ang nagtatransport ng nutrients, oxygen, at ng waste products sa ating katawan. You are correct po. Kasi ang dugo po is may dalawang component. We have the solid and the liquid component. Pag solid component po, yan po yung mga blood cells. Where your liquid component po is your plasma. And plasma is basically a fluid. Okay? Siya po yung tubig ng dugo. Pag wala pong plasma ang dugo or kokonti ang plasma ng dugo, malapot po yan. So yung pagdaloy ng dugo is maapektuhan din. Okay? So that's how important water is pagdating sa transportation ng nutrients and oxygen. Kasi pag kokonti ang tubig ng katawan, kokonti ang plasma, therefore maapektuhan ang transport ng oxygen. Okay? And at nutrients, other waste products and substances. Aside from that, it also serves as a lubricant. Iniisip nyo, lubricant. But you're actually correct. Okay? So aside from the fact that water is necessary para yung mga mucous membranes natin sa katawan will always be wet, katulad ng ating conjunctiva. Okay? Kasi pag hindi po basa si conjunctiva, hindi tayo nagbiblink mga kapatid, okay, or mga ka-nursing, is magiging dry po yung ating mata. Pag naging dry po yung ating mata, it may lead to a condition called your xerophthalmia. So xerophthalmia is an extreme dryness of the eye that may lead to blindness. That's how important it is. And sabi ko nga kanina, lubricant. Of course, sa example, sa vagina ng babae, aside from the fact that it helps in the regulation of the acidity and alkalinity of the vagina, okay? Of course, sa physiologic function ng lubricant sa katawan natin is during sexual intercourse. So pag kulang ang tubig or ng water ang katawan natin, maapektuhan din yung production ng lubricant o yung mga natural lubricant doon sa vagina ng babae. Of course, it will affect yung sexual performance. Okay? And aside from that, okay, insulator and shock absorber, and of course, a means of regulating and maintaining body temperature. Okay, body temperature. Kaya nga tayo nagpapawis, lalo pag sobrang init. Okay, our core temperature starts to rise, and in order to regulate that at ibalik sa normal range ang ating core temperature, ilalabas po ng katawan natin yung init. And that is through perspiration or sweating. And by the way, the medical term for sweating is your diaphoresis. Okay? So, yan, diaphoresis. Yan. Pasensya na sa sulat ni Sir kasi mouse lang po ang gamit niya. Okay? So, diaphoresis. Okay? Sa mga nakakaalam, very good po. Sa mga hindi pa nakakaalam, okay, that is the medical term for your sweating. Okay? That is the medical term for your sweating. Again, okay, if you do have some questions po regarding sa discussion natin, just kindly comment lang po sa ating comment section, and we will try to answer that sa mga next videos natin. Okay? So, let me continue with the next one. So, okay. So, since we're talking about fluids in the body, so how is it distributed? Paano na i-distribute yung mga tubig sa katawan natin? I'm sorry for the incorrect spelling there. It should be distribution. Okay? It should be distribution. Okay? So, distribution of fluids in the body. Okay? So, for the distribution of fluids in the body, there are two major compartments in our body. So, number one is the intracellular and the other one is the extracellular. Madali lang po intindihin ito mga kapatid, okay, or mga ka-nursing. Okay? Pag sinabi natin intracellular compartment, this is inside, cellular is cell. So, it is within the cell or inside the cell. And intracellular compartments stores 2/3 of the total body fluids. So, majority ng tubig sa katawan natin is nasa loob ng cell. And your intracellular fluids or your intracellular compartment caters now your intracellular fluid that is contains solutes, oxygens, electrolytes, glucose, and it provides medium in which metabolic process of the cell takes place. Okay? So that is your intracellular compartments. And the other compartment is the extracellular. So kung kanina, intra is inside the cell, extracellular naman is outside the cell. Okay, outside the cell. And extracellular compartments is composed of the total 1/3 of the total body fluids. Kung kanina, intracellular is 2/3, this one naman po is 1/3. So mas konti po ang tubig sa extracellular compare sa intracellular. So, majority of the water is inside or are inside the cell. And your extracellular compartments serves as the transport system ng ating katawan in terms of oxygen, nutrients, and waste products. Kung maalala niyo yung discussion natin kanina in the purposes of water, okay, so the plasma, okay, plasma is actually a water that is located outside the cell, specifically sa ating blood vessels or your intravascular compartments. Okay? Which will now lead us to the second part ng discussion natin, the secondary compartments po or the subcompartments of your extracellular fluids. The secondary compartments are your intravascular and your interstitial. Para mas maintindihan po natin ito, okay, para mas maintindihan natin, so if this is your blood vessel, this is your cell. Ayan yung nucleus natin. So, this is basically your IV, intravascular. This is your cell inside the cell. So, that is your intracellular compartment or dandyan yung ating ICF, intracellular fluids. So, both of these are your extracellular compartment. So, yung mga tubig dito, okay, so IV, so it's subdivided into two, IV and your IS. So, IV is intravascular or the blood inside the blood vessel, in interstitial inside or the space between the cell and the intravascular system. But these are both under your extracellular compartment that contains your ECF. So, ECF is your extracellular fluid. Okay, sana po maliwanag tayo dyan. Extracellular fluid. So, yan. Release natin. Okay, so these are the specifics regarding the two subcompartments of your extracellular fluids or extracellular compartments. So your intravascular and your interstitial. So intravascular is also known as your plasma, which accounts about 20% of the total ECF or extracellular fluids, while your interstitial accounts at around 75% of the total ECF. So this is basically the compartment that surrounds the cell. Okay, just like on the description that I have created with the previous slides natin. Okay, and if you try to add that, that's 20% plus 75%, sir, nasaan po yung 5% ng fluids dun sa ECF? Saan na po siya nandun? Okay, the remaining 5% is located in the other compartments, such as your lymph, okay, your lymph, and your transcellular fluid. So your lymph, pag sinabi nating lymph, okay, anong maisip nating system? Your lymphatic system. So this is basically yung parang nagtatransport ng mga antibodies in your white blood cells to the different parts of the body sa mga lymph nodes natin to fight infection. Okay? So that is your sa ating lymphatic system. While your transcellular fluids naman po is sa ating cerebrospinal examples are your cerebrospinal fluid, pericardial, pancreatic, pleural, intraocular, biliary, peritoneal, and your synovial fluid. So basically, pag sinabi natin cerebrospinal, ito yung nasa ating spinal fluids, sa ating brain, and in your spinal cord. So the fluids that's actually surrounding the central nervous system, and that is actually protecting them. So it provides a cushion, okay, doon sa critical part or critical nerves, which is your spine and of course the brain itself. Okay, sa pericardial naman, so commonly po located siya sa pericardial sac. So this is the space between the pericardium and the outside layer of the heart. So and pag sinabi natin naman na pleural, this is your inner lungs. And of course, alam natin ang synovial sa mga joints, peritoneal is in your abdominal cavities. Okay. So intraocular is in the eyes, and of course, biliary is in your gallbladder. Okay. So those are the other compartments, which is where the remaining 5% of ECF is located. So the remaining 5% of ECF or extracellular fluid is located. So those are the compartments of our body where the fluids are actually located. Again, majority of the fluids is located intracellular, okay, and the others are located outside the cell, which are extracellular. So extracellular are divided into different compartments. The two sub-major compartments is your intravascular, followed by your interstitial. Majority of the ECF is located in your interstitial, 20% is in your intravascular, and the remaining 5% is in your lymph nodes and transcellular fluids. So those are the compartments, and that's how fluids in the body is distributed. Okay, so I hope we are clear with that. Again, for questions regarding the topic that we're discussing right now, kindly comment it down po sa ating comment section, and we will try to answer that sa ating mga next videos. Okay. Next is the composition of body fluids. So we talk about the composition. What are the components? What are in the fluids? Okay, what are the substances, molecules, okay, or the solutes that are present in the body fluids? Okay, so that's the focus of our discussion now. So the concepts regarding the composition is that, of course, ECF, both ECF and ICF contains the same thing, mostly. Okay, your oxygen, nutrients, excretory products, and a product of metabolism such as your carbon dioxide and ions. Sir, bakit parehas? Take note, si ECF po ang transport papunta kay ICF. Kaya po parehas sila ng component. Okay? Parehas sila ng component. And gusto ko pong mag-focus dito sa ions, kasi kapag dating sa ions po, as a prerequisite po sa next topic natin, which is your electrolytes. Pag-usapan natin si electrolytes. So, what are ions? Electrolytes. Pasensya na po sa sulat. Okay, so electrolytes. So what are ions po? What are ions? Ions are actually charged particles in our body. Okay. Product din siya ng metabolism, and these are charged particles in our body. Okay, so ions, since charged particles siya, it can be positive or negative. So it's either your cations or your cations and your anions. So anions or your cations are the positive particle, while your anions are the negative charged particles. Okay, and when these charged particles are mixed or dissolved into water, they will be called as electrolytes. And electrolytes are ions that are capable of conducting electricity. Okay, that are capable of conducting electricity. So that is the basic concepts about the composition of your body fluids. Again, both ECF and ICF are containing the same thing, okay, in different level. Kasi nga the ECF is the one is transporting the contents into the cell. Okay, so one of the content is the ions, and ions are charged particles that can either be positive or negative. And when these ions are dissolved in water, they will be called as electrolytes. And electrolytes are capable of conducting electricity. Okay, so with that idea, so let me just provide a bit information about the cations and anions. Again, cations or your cations are the positive charges or positive ions. Okay, these anions naman po are the negative charges. And examples of your cations are your sodium, potassium, calcium, and your magnesium. While your anions, there are 4 as well. We have your chloride, we have your bicarbonate, your phosphate, and your sulfate. Okay, so those are the positive and negative charges in our body. Okay, so these are the types of your ions, cations, and your anions. Okay, sabi ko nga po kanina, so when an ion is dissolved in water, they will be called as electrolytes. Okay, so itong mga charged particles na nata sa katawan natin ngayon, they will be called as electrolytes. So electrolytes are very important po na kailangan nating alamin, because an imbalance in your electrolytes will lead to certain conditions. We will discuss that later on sa mga next videos natin. Okay, or sa succeeding videos as continuation po ng video natin. Okay, so electrolytes are measured in 2 ways. Number 1 is in mil equivalent, or your mech per liter, or milligrams per 100 liters. So mech per liter po, okay, mech per liter, and your milligrams per 100 milliliters. Okay, so your mech per liter or your mil equivalent is measuring the chemical combining power of ion, okay, in relation sa capacity ng cations and anions. So basically, 1 positive equals to 1, so 1 positive is equals to 1 negative. So 1 charged particle is equals to 1 positive. 1 positive particle is equals to 1 negative particle. Ano ba? Pangit ng condenser. Okay, negative particle or negative ions. So positive is equals to negative. Okay, while your milligram naman po is measuring the weight of ion. Okay, the weight of ion in every 100 ml of solution. Okay, the weight of ion in every 100 ml of solution or water. Okay. And to understand this better, we have the example here. Naibigay ko na siya dito. So 1 mech of any anion is equals to 1 mech of any cations. Okay, in terms of your capacity to combine into molecules. Example nga po, example is your sodium chloride. So sodium chloride. So 1 sodium and 1 chloride. So 1 sodium and 1 chloride. So that is the cations and that is the anions. So I hope we are clear with that. So on how to measure your electrolytes. The next part is that how does these electrolytes distributed in different compartments of our body. So review tayo ng compartments. We have your ICF and your ECF, or your ICC and your ECC, intracellular compartment and your extracellular compartment. So intracellular compartment, so the major cations in your intracellular is your or the positive charges inside your cell is your potassium and magnesium, while the negative charges is your phosphate and sulfate. Inside the cell, that is inside the cell. Outside the cell is your sodium. So this is basically sa ating blood. Okay, sodium. And we have your chloride and bicarbonate. Okay, chloride and your bicarbonate. So these are your, of course, kasama din po dyan si calcium. Pakisama na lang si calcium. So calcium is more on sa ating cell as well. Okay. Then let's continue. Okay. So other body fluids that contains electrolytes aside from the two compartments are your gastric or gastrointestinal secretions, such as your hydrochloric acid, okay, which wherein yung chloride po ang main component niya. Okay. So the next topic is the movement of body fluids and electrolytes in our body. Again, with the previous topic, if you have questions, just kindly comment it down po sa ating comment section and we will try to answer that sa mga next videos natin. So, movement of body fluids and electrolytes. So, the concepts that we need to know is that every compartment in our body is separated by a membrane. It's either a semi-permeable or highly permeable or a non-permeable membrane. So, depende po yan. Pero karamihan ng membrane sa katawan natin are semi-permeable. Okay, membranes are permeable to water, which is your solvent, and selectively permeable to solutes. So, kadalasan po, depende sa size ng solute. Okay, so solvent are the substances that is dissolving the solute. Okay, para mas maintindihan natin, solvent versus solute. Solvent are the component of a solution that can dissolve a solute, while a solute is the substance that is dissolved in liquid. For example, is water is the solvent in sugar when mixed with water. So the sugar will become the solute because it will be dissolved in water. Okay, that is the solvent and solute concept. So basic naman po ito na ituro ito na ating sa general science natin lalo sa chemistry. Okay, so solute can either be crystalloids or your colloids. Crystalloids are the readily dissolved solutes, while your colloids are the not readily dissolved solutes into a true solution. So basically, ito po yung malalaking solutes such as your proteins and glucose. Okay. So that is your solvent versus solute concept. Now, when you talk about the solute, okay, solute in relation to solvent, so may ratio po yan. So there's actually a certain ratio. So, kung madami ang solvent, kung madami ang solute, and that will determine or that will provide the idea yung tinatawag nating osmolality. Okay? Because osmolality is the concentration of solute in body fluids or the concentration of solute in solvent. Okay? So, kung gaano kadami ang solute particles na meron sa fluids ng katawan. Okay? So, solute particles or the osmolality will be reported as milliosmoles per kilogram. Okay, milliosmoles per kilogram. And when we talk about the osmolality, kailangan din natin malaman yung tinatawag na tonicity. Tonicity is basically yung osmolality of one solution in relation to another solution. So, kailangan natin maintindihan ito kasi nga iba yung tonicity ng solution inside the blood vessel or extracellular compared to that of the intracellular. Okay? And with that idea of tonicity, okay, it will lead us to determine kung what type of solution should be given to a patient with a specific condition. Kung dehydrated siya, ano dapat ang ibibigay nating solution? And to talk about solution, there are three types of solution. We have your isotonic solution, we have your hypertonic solution, and the next one is your hypotonic solution. We are going to discuss this one by one. So we are now going to discuss the three types of solution, which is your isotonic, hypertonic, and hypotonic solution. So what are the difference between these three? So it's important for us to know the difference between these three kasi po different diseases that is concerning your imbalances regarding your fluids requires different solution as well depending on the imbalance of fluids and electrolytes that is happening in the human body. Okay, so number one that we need to discuss is your isotonic solution. So what is isotonic solution? Okay, again, we are referring to the tonicity of your solution. So isotonic solution has the same osmolality as ECF. Meaning, okay, osmolality as ECF. Meaning, parehas po sila ng osmolality ng ating blood. Okay? So, they have the same osmolality sa blood. Kung ano ang osmolality or the relationship of the plasma into the with the solute into our blood is the same component din po na meron sa isang isotonic solution. Okay? That is why during emergency situation, pinaka-safe na ibigay ang isotonic solution, especially if the patient requires blood transfusion. Pag ang pasyente po ay nagre-require ng blood transfusion to correct a certain imbalance in the body or as part of the management for the client's condition, okay, isotonic po solution po ang example isotonic solution ay binibigay natin, okay, which will serve as the primary or the main line during blood transfusion, where if in case na nagkaroon ng blood incompatibility at nagkaroon ng reaction sa part ng pasyente during the blood transfusion, we have to close immediately yung blood, okay, the line that is connected in the blood. Then we're going to open the main line, which is your isotonic solution. And examples of your isotonic solution is your 0.9% sodium chloride, or also known as your PNSS, your plain normal saline solution. Okay, take note of that. Normal isotonic solution or the osmolality of the blood is about 0.9% sodium chloride. Okay, 0.9% sodium chloride. So that is the osmolality itself. Okay, so the percentage of sodium chloride into the blood, okay, or in relation to blood plasma. Okay, while your hypertonic solution is or has a higher osmolality compared to that of the ECF, meaning it's more than 0.9% if we are referring to sodium chloride. Okay, so higher osmolality. So meaning the solute concentration inside the blood vessel will be greater. Okay, will be greater compared to that of the normal osmolality inside the blood. Okay, so tendency kapag mas mataas po ang osmolality ng blood natin, so the absorption of water will be towards the blood vessel. Okay, so kapag nasobraan po kasi natin or mali ang naibigay nating solution sa ating pasyente, okay, mali yung naibigay na solution. For example, this is the cell, and let me just remove my picture there. So this is the cell, and that is the blood vessel. Okay, basically the increased osmolality or solute concentration in the blood will going to absorb the water inside the cell, causing the cell now to shrink. So that's why we need to be very careful in giving solutions to our patient. Of course, it requires order naman po from a physician before we can give a solution. But of course, as nurses who will be performing or who will be giving or implementing the doctor's order, we have to be aware as well of the effects of the possible negative effects if a certain solution is given incorrect compared to incorrect in relation sa condition ng pasyente. Okay, so it will cause the cell to shrink, okay, kapag masyadong mataas ang osmolality. Example ng ating hypertonic solution is your 3% sodium chloride. Sabi nga natin kanina, the normal is 0.9%. So 3% sodium chloride is 2.1% higher, okay, in terms of osmolality sa ating dugo. Okay, and the next one is your hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution has lower osmolality than ECF. So kung kanina hyper is more than the normal, Ang hypotonic naman is lower than normal. So lower osmolality than the ECF. So kung ito yung blood vessel at ang nilagay is hypotonic solution at nasobrahan, magiging malabnaw po ang dugo. So ang solute concentration ay tataas sa ating cell, mas mataas ang solute concentration niya. So sabi nga natin, where solute goes, water follows. So kung mas mataas ang solute dito, i-absorb niya yung tubig from intravascular going here, it will now cause the cell to swell. Okay? Or in some cases, sabi nga nila burst or swell na lang. Okay? Swell. So, lulobo po yung cell. Okay? Lulobo yung cell. And examples of your hypotonic solution is your 0.45%. Okay? Or half concentration of the plain normal saline solution. So, those are the three types of solution in our that is available for the treatment or management of imbalances later on. Of course, it requires a doctor's order or physician's order before we can provide or insert any form of solution sa ating pasyente. Okay? So, the concepts of osmotic pressure. So, since we are discussing about the movement of fluids from one compartment to another, okay, we have to know something about your osmotic pressure. Kasi sa katawan po natin, isa ang osmotic pressure sa nagme-maintain ng balance, okay, ng fluids natin in each compartments of our body. Okay, in each fluid compartments in the body. So osmotic pressure is basically the power of a solution to pull water across a semi-permeable membrane. Okay. Later on, we have pictures to discuss this, okay, sa mga sisulad na slides natin. And example of your osmotic pressure is your oncotic pressure, which is yung sa ating blood vessel. So kung yan yung blood vessel natin, andyan yung cell, dito, nandyan ang oncotic pressure. So basically, oncotic pressure is the one that will neutralize the fluids from the interstitial to intravascular. So, siya yung humihila ng tubig papunta rito. Okay. Pag-uusapan natin yan mamaya kung paano naman po lumalabas yung tubig from intravascular to interstitial during the methods of transferring or movement of fluids, okay, in each compartments. And RBC swelling when using hypotonic solution and your RBC shrinking when using hypertonic solution, just like I have mentioned. Okay, now we are going to discuss the movement by which water and solutes move in the body. So these are the methods. Paano nga ba nag-move from one compartment to another ang water and solutes? And paano naka-apekto yung solute concentration ng isang compartment sa isang compartment? So, there are four general methods on how water and solutes move in our body. Number one is your diffusion. Alam po, you're familiar with this one. Since high school po ata sa ating science subject, dinidiscuss natin ito. Next is your osmosis. Another familiar word po sa atin sa movement ng molecules. We have also your filtration and also your active transport. Now, for this one, okay, diffusion and osmosis are both passive transport. Parehas po silang passive transport kasi hindi sila nagre-require ng energy to move molecules from one place to another. Okay? Hindi sila nagre-require ng energy. So diffusion is basically the movement of molecules from one area of higher solution concentration to an area of lower solution concentration. When we talk about solution, the amount of fluids yung sinasabi. Diffuse, okay, when you say diffuse movement, okay, so movement from an area of higher, i-diffuse niya sa mas maliit na area para malagyan. So for example, if there is a fish pan, pag nilagyan mo ng, binutasan mo yung fish pan, pupunta siya sa area wherein there is low concentration of solution, which is the water. Okay, so that's how diffusion works. Diffuse. So, napakadaling intindihin. Okay, so pag binutas mo isang plastic, okay, na may lamang tubig, diffusion po yun. Okay, so that's basically your diffusion. And osmosis, okay, later on i-discuss natin yun. So diffusion, sabi ko kanina, from an area of higher solution concentration to an area of lower solution concentration. Okay, so aside from that, we have another method, which is your osmosis. Osmosis is basically the movement of molecules from an area of low solute concentration to an area of higher solute concentration. Take note, pag pinag-usapan po kasi natin ang solute, okay, solute absorbs water. So, solute absorbs water. Kaya nga may kasabihan na tinatawag na where solute goes, solvent follows. Or sa iba, where sodium goes, water follows. Sodium is an example of solute. So, kung mataas ang concentration ng isang area ng solute, i-absorb niya yung tubig from that area na may nakukunti ang solute concentration. Okay? And your osmosis is very important in mechanism for maintaining homeostasis and fluid balance. Later on, we have an example for this one kung paano niya na-maintain yung fluid balance sa katawan natin. Okay? Another method is your filtration. So, filtration, again, osmosis po. Forgot to discuss the picture. Okay? So, osmosis, so this is your semi-permeable membrane. As you can see, pag sinabi natin semi-permeable membrane, it allows some fluids or some particles to pass through the membrane. Example is your solvent. Okay? Kaso pag malaki yung particles, hindi niya pinapayagan, such as proteins. Okay? So, from here, osmosis. So, from here, mataas ang solute concentration that dito, representing the blue. So, that is the solute compared sa solute ng ating nasa kabila. Okay? And the red one are the solution or the fluids, the solvent. So basically, the solute, we're going to absorb the solvents here going to an area of higher solute. So let's go back to the idea where sodium goes, water follows. Where solute goes, water follows because solute can absorb water. Okay? And another one is your filtration. Another method is your filtration. Filtration is basically fluids and solutes moves together across a membrane from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. So we're discussing or we are referring to the pressure naman po, not about the solute concentration. Okay? So filtration is, example is the movement of fluids and nutrients from the capillaries to the arterioles. Okay? And we call that as your filtration process, pressure. An example of your filtration pressure is your hydrostatic pressure. So this is the pressure exerted by a fluid within a closed system of the walls of the container in which it is contained. Para po mas maintindihan natin na maigi, let's look at the picture. So the picture here, this is your blood vessel. Okay, so what you can see here is your blood vessel, and that is the semi-permeable membrane. So that's the blood vessel wall. Okay, and the blood vessel wall is semi-permeable. So semi-permeable siya. May mga butas na it allows some substances or molecules to pass through. Okay, so there is an arrow here. So the arrow, that is the pushing force. That pushing force is created by the pumping ability of the heart. So kada tibok ng puso, okay, pag tumibok ang puso, yan, pag tumibok ang puso, nagkakaroon siya ng pushing force that is to deliver or transport yung blood sa different parts ng katawan natin. Since malakas yung pressure natin, of course, merong sumisirit na component or na tubig, okay, from intravascular to interstitial. At yung pagsirit ng tubig na yon, kasi mataas ang pressure sa inside the blood vessel compare sa interstitial, may lalabas ng tubig. Yun yung tinatawag nating hydrostatic pressure. Okay. Of course, we have, or the body needs to maintain the fluid distribution in each compartment. Sabi nga natin sa discussion natin kanina, interstitial has 70%, okay, or 75 rather. 75% of the total body fluids. Okay, 75% of the total ECF fluids, while your blood vessel contains your 20%. Okay, remaining 5% is in other compartments like your lymph nodes and your transcellular fluids or transcellular compartments. Ngayon, there are instances na tumataas ang pressure, and of course, pwede itong akyat sa above, okay, or greater than 75%. So, when that happen, okay, at hindi na ibalik yung tubig, it may lead to edema. So, pamamaga. Okay. So, kailangan ibalik natin yung sobrang tubig na naipush papunta sa interstitial space, pabalik sa intravascular. So, ano naman ang pressure na gagawa nun? Sabi natin kanina, osmotic pressure or your osmosis is very important in maintaining osmosis sa katawan. Ito na nga po yun. So, osmotic pressure will come in to maintain the homeostasis. Ang gagawin niya, okay, again, osmotic from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher solute concentration. Mas mataas po kasi ang solute dito. Okay, mas mataas ang content ng sodium dito sa intravascular compare sa interstitial. Therefore, mas maraming solute na mag-absorb ng tubig from the interstitial space to the intravascular. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng pressure wherein nagkakaroon ng pulling force. So, kung kanina, pushing force, ito naman, pulling force. Pulling now the extra fluids in the interstitial space to go back sa ating intravascular space. To maintain now the level of fluids that is supposed to be yung content ng each compartment. Okay. So that is your filtration versus osmosis, or your hydrostatic pressure versus your osmotic pressure. So this is specifically known as your oncotic pressure, by the way. So this is physically known as your oncotic pressure. And oncotic pressure is being maintained by albumin. Okay, pag nagkulang po ng albumin sa katawan natin, maapektuhan din pang oncotic pressure ng katawan. Kaya yung may mga problema sa atay, wherein atay po kasi, your liver natin is may kinalaman siya sa production or synthesis ng protein. So pag may problema ang atay, may problema sa synthesis ng protein, maaari din maapektuhan yung production ng albumin. Therefore, kukulangin ng albumin to maintain yung osmotic pressure. Kaya nagkakaroon ng edema ang mga pasyente na may sakit sa atay. Okay? So from that, the last method is your active transport. Active transport naman po is the movement of solutes across cell membranes from an area less concentrated solution to a more concentrated solution or concentrated one. So kung kanina yung movement ng molecules mismo, ng solution mismo, ito naman movement ng solute. Okay? Halos parehas sila ng osmosis. However, ang pinagkaiba po kasi, active transport is more on, it requires an aid from another molecules, okay, para ma-transport ang isang solution or solute from one area to another. Unlike sa ating osmosis and diffusion is that it goes with the flow, kumbaga. So example po ng active transport natin, so sabi ko nga po, it combines with the carrier on the outside surface. Okay? Example nga po natin is the sodium-potassium pump. So, sodium-potassium pump. Tandaan natin na sodium is the intravascular major cations, while your potassium is the intracellular major cations. Okay, so mas marami po tayong potassium, mas marami tayong sodium sa dugo kaysa potassium, at inside the cell naman, mas marami ang potassium kaysa sodium. So, magkaaway po sila. Where sodium goes up, potassium goes down. When potassium goes up, sodium goes down. Yun po yung konsepto nilang dalawa. So sodium-potassium pump, okay, for example, here, sa picture natin, sa picture number 1, the sodium-potassium pump binds 3 sodium. So, yung ATP na tinatawag, so this is the carrier. So, it requires a carrier. Will carry 3 potassium or 3 sodium going now to the semi-permeable membrane. Okay? And splitting on ATP provides energy to change the shape of the channel. So basically, tumutulong siya para ma-move si sodium papunta or pabalik dun sa dugo. Ganun. Okay? And the sodium ions are driven through the channel. So the sodium ions are released to the outside of the membrane, at babalik naman yung pressure naman, magbabalik siya, kukuha naman siya ng 2 potassium, pabalik naman dun sa cell or papunta dun sa cell. Okay? Hanggang makapunta na nga po dun sa cell yung ating potassium, which is the original place naman talaga for potassium. So, common po itong nangyayari kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng sodium and potassium imbalance, okay, sa ating katawan. Kasi tulad ng sabi ko, sodium dapat mas marami siya sa dugo, at ang potassium dapat mas marami siya inside the cell. Okay? Sana po maliwanag tayo dyan. So that is your active transport. So again, if you do have any questions po, kindly comment it down po sa ating comment section, and we will try to answer that sa mga next videos natin. Hello mga ka-nursing, thank you for watching our video po, and if you did like this video, please click naman po yung like button, share the video na rin po sa mga kakilala, and of course, subscribe po and hit the notification bell para lagi kayong updated sa mga video natin. Thank you for watching. See ya!